Kingsley, what do you say we maybe get started? I mean, the good thing is this is being recorded, so we can mail it out to everybody who signed up who may be late or not able to join for any reason. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for everyone who signed up and showed interest in joining. I want to thank Kingsley, who is co-hosting and moderating this webinar as well. He actually, this is something we've been wanting to do for a while, but he really pushed this to come to fruition so that we can engage more people with the grant process and using Share Yourself in the most impactful way to help the grants very successful for everybody involved. So we'll be going over the grants specifically today, and that'll include how to use the Share Yourself platform and all of the tools and services that we offer, because they really do go hand in hand. I'll be doing a lot of screen sharing so that you can actually see what I'm talking about. It can be kind of a lot to chew on just describing what it is. And before I dive in too much further, I can see one message saying that they can't hear anything. Can everyone else hear? Oh, Kingsley, sorry, I muted you. Okay, sorry, Kingsley.
Yeah. So let's just be sure that everybody can hear. So if there's anybody that can't hear us, please just let us know. Okay, I can hear. I can't hear. Augustine, I think Augustine should please sign in with his device audio. Maybe that could be why. Yeah. So Lauren, I don't know. I'll just do a brief introduction, and then we'll just go take it from there. So welcome everybody. I'm Kingsley Adendu. I'm the head of African operations at Share Yourself. Thank you all for joining in. I know more persons are, still going to join in. We had about, I think it's about 70 or more persons who registered. So hopefully they will join us soonest. So our guest today is Lauren McKenna. She's the co-founder of Share Yourself. And fortunately, I think we have Stu McGowan, and that's the founder. He's somewhere in the room. And so the essence of this handles some of the content or complaints, so to say, that our users have been expressing. Some of them can't find their way around the site. Some can't even, follow the requirements of the grant application. And then, we keep getting the same questions as the feedback over and over again. So the essence of this webinar is just to address those feedbacks. And of course, I should mention that the knowledge you're going to be, gaining here today, it's not just going to be useful for the Share Yourself platform. It's something that you can apply in other scenarios where you find yourself needing to use a project management tool and the rest of that. So I'll just encourage everybody to try as much as possible to stay to the end. We're not going to, drag it for a long time. So Lauren is going to be sharing her screen and talking most of the time. So please just, try to absorb. You could get a notepad, try to absorb as much as you can hear, you're able to take from her, because eventually you take this thing back to your project and then apply them. And we hope the essence of our advertising these grants over and over again is that we hope more people win the grants, because between January and now, we've awarded about 14 grants to different persons. I mean, 14 grants in just less than 6 months is a big one. So I was a grant recipient early January, and then that's how I got to, start working with Share Yourself. So it's something that we're looking at, even supporting you beyond your first grant. We're open to that. So please try as much as possible to absorb everything you can, and then you can leave your questions in the chat section. We'll attend to them at the end because we're going to have a Q&A session. So thank you all for coming, and let's hear Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you, Kingsley. Yeah, I appreciate you saying, just to fully absorb as much as possible. I think while we're going over everything and it's all on the platform itself, we have tried to create as many blog posts and tutorials as possible to kind of help really digest and learn how to use these tools. In some ways, they're new, and in other ways, they're just kind of new iterations of what has existed for a long time in regards to project management. So there are many different ways to absorb this material more, and in an email, I'll happily share all the different ways that you can sort of learn and adapt this as well. And yeah, so I'm Lauren, and I'm the co-founder of Share Yourself, and the CEO and founder is somewhere here as well, and we won't be hearing from him today unless he chimes in. But we started this about 6 years ago, Share Yourself, with the intention and vision that many people, and I believe everybody, has some idea floating around as to how to make the world a better place for either their communities or humanity. But one of the biggest roadblocks, and there are several, is how to actually get the process rolling and find all the people who are going to help you make it happen. Over the years, we've identified that the biggest challenge for a lot of people is funding. We really believe in underdogs and people who have those ideas and aren't necessarily at, big enterprise or corporation levels. So we really welcome everybody at seed stages to take what may be a seed of an idea and grow it on the platform while receiving the resources and tools to help actually make it happen. So that's where the grants came in just this last year. We decided that between ourselves and partners, we would try to find those people who would be the equivalent of the friends, families, and fools, giving small alternative grants, donations to really help these projects succeed. And when we first started, it could be any project that had a social impact mission. And as we started, exploring the market and the world, we realized that a lot of people really have an interest in the emergency in regards to climate and other related sustainable development goals. So we started narrowing in on that, and then COVID hit, as we all know, and we momentarily put a focus on that and relief solutions. So that's why if you look at our grant page, you'll see a lot of different types of grants that have been available in the past. Some that are very, very broad and just have a social impact goal, and then others that are focused in a little more on geography or, for instance, the health pandemic. So that's a little bit of an overview of why Share Yourself began and sort of where we're at now. And diving in specifically to the grants, I just want to preface with saying that our grants we see as being unique and different from like government grants, for instance. We try to remove as many roadblocks as possible so that everybody has access to funding for their projects, whether that's a small amount or a large amount. While we do have requirements and criteria in place, we try to make them as accessible as possible using Share Yourself so that everybody can learn the process, have the opportunity. And then what we see from a lot of people who receive our grants is receiving one grant through an organization that is ours or through a partner. It puts them in a very good place to then receive other grants from other places. And that's mainly because it it gives them the, a lot of people look for, what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability and proof, I guess, that the project is sustainable. And so our grants put people in a position to be able to receive more, hopefully, in the future. And I have to apologize. I have 2 puppies who like to play and wrestle around a lot. So if you hear any noises coming from my end, that's what it is. So the other note I wanted to make before diving into specifics too is that while Share Yourself has existed for 6 years, the grant process has really come alive in the last year. And so we see ourselves as ever changing. We really value growth. And so in a way, our grant process, we consider beta, just because the more that we do host grants and the more that we do calls like this, we're constantly learning, which means we're constantly trying to adapt and iterate so that we can best serve the Share Yourself members, so that they're in a place of utilizing this resource to everybody's success. So the things we talk about today, you might see might go through some changes in the future, or there might not be the most clear answers for you, and that's because we're learning just as much as you are, and we hope that means that we'll be, the most adaptive in the most beneficial ways. So bear with me with any questions that that you might have that might take a little longer, a little more clarity to tackle. So moving right into the first part of the grant process, we do have a grants page, and once I get into sharing my screen, I'll show you where that page lives. That page is a gold mine of information. So a lot of questions that I do see come up can be answered there just by digging around a little bit. And we hope to provide more information there as time goes on as well. So some of this will be a little repetitive of some stuff I'll show you. But once you see what grants are live, right now, for instance, we have one grant that is live. It's for West African grants that are providing solutions and relief to communities in regards to COVID. So if you go there, you'll see, you have to be in a West African country. It has to be related to COVID. In the future, you'll see some opening up that might be related to climate change, for instance. So each grant will really depend on what that grant is specifically for, and that'll answer your question about whether or not you might be able to apply for it. So once you realize and identify, for instance, say you have a COVID relief project and you are in West Africa, that one is open, so you could go and you could apply to that. The first thing you're going to want to do is one of 2 things. You're going to want to start a project, and actually, maybe I will start sharing my screen now. That might be a little easier. Give me one moment. Okay. Let's see. Share screen. Okay. Kingsley, maybe if I can just get a thumbs up from you if you can see this. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this at the top here, if you're signed in to Share Yourself, or if not, this page is still available as well. You'll see grants here at the top. This one specifically is the grant that's open right now. It's the COVID response grant for West Africa. And so if you want to sign up for it, let's see, I'm going to go back to the grants page. You can view and apply here and apply for grant. And so this will give you the actual grant application, and I'll go through what, makes how to fill these out that looks good for us as we're going through trying to choose who receives these grants. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what an application looks like. It's very low key. Again, we try to remove as many roadblocks as possible. So basic information, and then once this gets going, you apply and it starts telling you the requirements that are needed. You can also view them in multiple places. The nice thing is we link them all here. So one of the requirements, and the first thing you're going to want to do, is create a social impact project. If you click that, it opens you up to a new page where you start a project. Another way that you can access this is once you're signed into Share Yourself, you can click your top logo here and start a new project. This will bring you through a process that does take a little bit of time, especially if you're using mobile device versus a computer, but it's relatively easy and really just brings you along the process of how to capture the essence of your project and what it is you hope to do or are doing, so that not only we, but everybody else can understand your project idea. But in regards to the grant process, this really allows us to actually see the project that you're envisioning and can see that you've set goals and that you know what it is you need to do to go from point A to point B in achieving this. So the first thing you're going to want to do, the first thing that we look at is when applying for the grant is the content and the detail. So we really would like to see it as clear as possible and as related to the project that you are posting and the theme of the grant as possible. This means, beyond just saying what a very basic description is that you would maybe put in your project page, right here specifically saying all of the goals that you hope to achieve for the grant, and how you are going to achieve them. And the other thing that I want to say about that is some people come on because we welcome people who are just starting off with an idea, or they see the grant and they think, oh man, there's something that I can do in my community. Let me sign up and use this as the opportunity to start forming an idea. And that's perfectly fine. What we welcome is, if that's the case, in this process of what the grant will be used for and using discrete goals, just be as open and transparent as possible in your honesty of saying, this is what I would like to do. This is my grand vision. But I actually don't know the steps yet of how I'm going to achieve it. I'm hoping to use these 2 weeks that the grant is open to figure that out. And hopefully in those 2 weeks, you can show us and we can see that you're working hard to grow this idea. And by the end of the 2 weeks where you might receive this grant, be able to activate that money right away. So it's okay if you don't have the idea formed out, but just using as much time as possible to really explain what's going on in your head and in your heart and what it is that you're hoping to do will help us kind of step into that space with you and believe that this vision you have is possible. And the rest of it is really straightforward. I will say that we don't look at the application as intently as we do all of the work that you do on the platform with your project thereafter. And that's what I want to dive into in a minute. But really quickly, I just wanted to say, along with setting out your goals and your vision, a picture is really valuable as well. So when you create a project and it asks you to upload a picture, one thing I will say I see a lot, and I think it's because a lot of people use their phone, is taking screenshots of something they find on their phone and then they upload it onto the platform. I do like that people are going the length of finding a photo, and our platform can be a little picky sometimes in regards to what is required in regards to size so that it doesn't come up blurry. I will just say, you know, when uploading a photo, you will be asked if there is, you know, a mobile border, or it's from another website and the address is still up there, to do your best to crop it and to make it an appropriate size, and have it be related to your project. And I'll include this in an email, but one really great resource, and it's completely free, and even, you know, the World Health Organization is on there, the UN is on there supplying photos for your free use, is a website called upsplash.com. And I will make sure to link that in the email that I send out to everybody as well. And it should probably actually just live on the project creation page so that everyone has it handy. But that's where we find most of our photos for the grants, so you can be assured that they're high quality and related to what it is you're doing. So one thing I do want to stop sharing my screen because I wanted to kind of use an example of content that has been used for someone's grant application that was really good. And let's see if I can open it up. I'm going to stop sharing. And let's see. So now this is by no means required whatsoever. But what some people like to do if they're already at that point is they've made a very clear budget of what they expect their project will cost, at least the first step. So when applying for a grant, it doesn't, the money that you receive doesn't need to cover the whole entire project, but maybe it just covers step one. Or maybe it covers the last step of your project. It can just be a small portion of your project to really get things going. So that might make it a little easier for some of you to maybe find yourselves worthy of receiving the grant or explaining what it will be used for. A lot of people sign up for the grant needing funds, maybe just to print material to start creating some momentum and visibility about their project. So flyers, signs, handout materials. That's one example. I just wanted to kind of briefly go over one really great application we received for the grant purpose. Someone had a virtual event that they were hosting in response to COVID in regards to youth. And they explained exactly what the event was going to be, the proposed date. They linked all of their social medias where it was going to be hosted. And then they explained step by step the assistance they needed. So all the things they didn't have yet, everything from connection to internet, to resources for running ads, speakers. They listed all of those needs out so that we could actually help them find all of the people that could help them pull it together, aside from the $500 that was going to be going towards their grant. So that was really helpful in understanding exactly what their project was going to be and how it tied to COVID, and ways that we could help them and that the community can help them. So that's just a small example. I unfortunately, for privacy issues, can't show any grant applications, but something that I can definitely do is create a couple of example grant applications that we would like to see, that we think would be helpful for you and for us, and show them as sort of mock examples. So back to sharing the screen. 1 moment. Bear with me for a moment, please. Share screen. Okay. So we do have requirements and conditions, leading up to the decision-making process. So the first thing that you do once you apply for a grant is, if you haven't already, you start a project, which is a page that I showed you. That's going to be another good place that you can put as much detail as possible into it. We provide a lot of prompts to answer questions to get sort of the wheels in your mind turning as to how your project can be formed and where you can go with it. And so there's some really good activities and prompts there. And that is something that you can go and revisit anytime. So once you create the project and you submit it, by no means is it set in stone. You can, anytime you want to, just go back to this page and edit your project. What that'll do is that will let you know that will be shot back to us to approve. And really, we just look for any errors in typing, or make sure that people aren't trying to post an inappropriate project. But we have someone approving more or less right away, but for sure within 24 hours. So you can edit it at any time. So anything that you do is not set in stone. As your project grows or changes, you can edit it as much as possible. Again, project photo we talked about. Try to just make it as high quality as possible. It doesn't have to be a photo that you own. It can be used in many of those websites that offer free photos. And then the next step is making sure that you have team members. So Share Yourself has just about 2,000 people on the platform. One of the goals of Share Yourself is to foster collaboration. So if you are a solo individual with a great project idea and you have no idea how to make it happen, or you're doing it all on your own, I understand that you can for sure do it on your own, but what we would really like to see for people who are trying to achieve grants is really utilizing their inner circle and a community at large, even a global community, to work on this project, so that you can see success, so that you can bring other people into this great idea. And so you can find them either on the platform. They don't have to be someone within your community on the ground with you. You can find people on the platform with similar interests to you. And you can do that by looking at tags. Kingsley, I'm going to use your project as an example. Let's see. So on Kingsley's page for the SDGs for kids, he has created tags for his project. So SDG Goal 4 is a really good example. Education. You can have as many tags as you want. It can be a tag that says environment, for instance, or gender equality, agriculture, and clicking one of these would then bring you to a page that shows you all other people and projects that have the same tag and same interest. So when starting your project and creating your profile page, I would say that's one of the most important things you can do if you're wanting to connect with the rest of the community, especially when trying to find team members. So a way that you can invite team members in is, if I stumble upon Kingsley's project and I want to get invited, I can request to join. Alternatively, if this is Kingsley's project, he can go into the team and he can actually add people to his team with a similar button here. And they can be off the platform, so you can put in someone's email and it'll send them an email saying, hey, I would like you to join Share Yourself and join my project. or if they exist on the platform, they can join right away. And certain projects you will see will have team members that have unique project role names. So whether it's someone who does content creation, or if it's someone who is on the ground managing the project, that's another example. And so what team members do, the reason we want three there is to foster collaboration, but also to help you help you with your milestones and your tasks. So this is a really big one for, let's see if I can go back to the grant. This is a really big one for the grant requirements, using the milestones and tasks. Now, this used to be a requirement of ours. It's not a requirement anymore per se. However, this is, I would say, one of two things that we look at most when it comes to actual activity after applying for a grant. And I've understood that this is probably one of the more troubling things to understand on our platform. So I'm going to do my very best to be very simple and clear in describing what milestones and tasks are, and then showing how they can be used. We have a couple of Share Yourself members and grant recipients chiming in at the end of the call today to explain their experience. And I also invite Kingsley to also dive in and help me out here as possible, as much as possible. But just to preface, I will say milestones and tasks, they're involved with project management. So, and I'll show you how to find them in a minute. But think of milestones as your main goals. All of these goals are what set you up to succeed with a project. So they are the bigger goals, and then all of the tasks within the milestones are all of the really small to-do list things that you need to do to make that goal happen. And then as each goal / milestone is complete, you're closer and closer to completing your entire project. That is the easiest way that I explain tasks and milestones. However, I do understand that viewing the tasks and milestones is incredibly helpful as well. So one of the reasons why every project on our platform is open for anybody to see is because it helps other people learn how to use the platform. And it gives other people ideas and inspirations as to what they might need to do to have a successful project. So you can privatize your project. However, we encourage everybody to make it public so that other people can learn. And so I highly suggest just taking some time going around the platform, looking at projects, and going right into their tasks. This is Kingsley's, and it is open for everybody to see. He has been working on this for a while because he applied for a grant back at the beginning of the year. And so you can see all of his milestones here. Kingsley will do a better job at explaining what his project is, but it's SDGs for kids. And essentially it's taking all the United Nations 17 SDGs and figuring out a framework for them so that he can go into schools and he can teach them to children. And so all of his milestones are the big goals he needed and needs to essentially set that up. And I am going to, Kingsley, if it's okay with you, maybe unmute. I'm going to unmute you so that you can maybe dive a little more into how you used milestones and tasks for your project, because everybody uses it differently. There's no right way or wrong way to use it as long as you are using it. Kingsley, you see here, they're set up as bigger goals, but he's even used like team networking as a milestone, and Share Yourself does a similar thing. You know, we've used it in the past to set up each month of the year as a milestone, and then all of our tasks, aka to-do lists, are within each of those milestones. Some people set up, you know, each milestone as a different project member's certain milestone, and then all of their tasks are there. But for the project creator, this is for you to be able to see, okay, a goal of mine is to learn the SDGs. What are all the things that I need to do to learn the SDGs? And then all of a sudden you start listing all of those tasks that relate to that milestone, that goal, so that when you come in every day to Share Yourself, you can see what tasks that you need to do in order to achieve that goal. Again, I know that it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around until you start getting going, but I do assure you, once you just start with a couple of milestones and start listing things here, and you have your members helping you, it starts to get going. So Kingsley, let me just see. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to unmute you so that maybe you can dive into one of these, maybe as an understandable example. You might even be able to, yeah, let's see. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. I would say during my SDG for Kids project, I was still new to Share Yourself, and I was still trying to. I don't know. Can we use we use the hand washing for hand washing against COVID-19 project?
Yeah, absolutely.
Project.
I'm just gonna go to Kingsley.
Can we use that other? Okay. So while that's coming up, I want to say something. The milestones, like she said, are the bigger goals. They are like points, major achievements along your project track, which you're trying to achieve. And the tasks are just the activities that you're going to embark on to get to that point. So let me use, for example, I'm in Port Harcourt, and the milestone of my adventure is to my adventure might be my project might be Tour Nigeria, okay? And one of my major milestones is to get to Lagos. So that's a major achievement. From Port Harcourt to Lagos is like a good distance and a major achievement. So get to Lagos. So Lagos is the milestone, for example. So what are those tasks that I need to do? How do I get to Lagos? Are going to be your task. For example, how do you get to Lagos from Port Harcourt? If you're going to be flying, you're going to buy an air ticket, you're going to pack your bags, you're going to maybe do some little things that will lead you to the airport to board a plane to go to Lagos to get to your milestone. So every of those little tasks. And the thing about on these milestones and tasks, which is this project management tool, is this. If someone who is experienced comes to the timeline or goes to your project and looks at the task or the milestone, even if you've not set them properly, even if you mistake task for milestone and the rest of them, if someone actually looks at your project, the person can tell if this is a very good project, if you're really doing what you said you do. So let's thing I did, Lauren.
Sorry, Kingsley, you're breaking up a little bit. So I'm just gonna ask you to repeat because I heard my name pop out of there.
No, just go down. Okay, just go to 200 liters capacity wash station, please.
Okay.
Okay, now for the 200 liter capacity wash station I was trying to set up, that's my milestone. I want to have the wash station up and running. You see what I did, the first thing I did when I was trying to set it up, there's a tank stand. I had to get a tank stand. I had to schedule a meeting with Mrs. Favor. Mrs. Favor was the lady that supplied the hand wash, the soap, liquid soap, and the hand sanitizers that we used. So scheduling a meeting with someone in respect of your project is also a task to a milestone. If you're going to be making a phone call, you can put it there. It's a task to a milestone. Because if you don't do all those little things, there's no way you're going to achieve that milestone. So that was a task. Site collaboration. What that means is that we needed to, the site we got, we needed to talk to the people that own the place and if we can use the place. And you can see that that task was assigned to Justina. Justina is a volunteer for my project. She's my team. She's a teammate in my project. So your task must not always be executed by you, the project creator. It could be one of your team members. And there's a particular project that's ongoing. The project creator, I think, is Monday. I see the team is doing a lot of things. I think we'll come to that later. Maybe we'll just give him time to speak. But you see that your task should not always be you. Your team members can execute a task that is all taking every one of you to the milestone, to achieving that milestone, which means that it shows that there's a synergy. Then there's a procure nose mask, procure hand wash consumables, secure water tanks. Because if I don't do all these things, there's no way I'll set up a hand wash station. So it's very important that before you set up a milestone, think of it clearly. If I get to this point, have I achieved something? Yes. Okay, you want to, it's a COVID response project. You want to maybe sew nose mask, for example. You want to make 50 nose masks. And that is a milestone. Produce 50 nose masks. That's a milestone. So what are the tasks? You need to go to the market. You need to buy the fabric. You need to get the sewing machine, the tailors. All those little things are the tasks that you need to achieve it. So in this project management tool, it's a good thing that ShareYourself made. And I like people to always use it. You can always look at one of the hacks, which I think I should just share is, why don't you just, if you're new here, why don't you just go to the previous projects that won a grant? Look what they did with their task and just look what they did throughout the project and see if you can replicate those things. And then, of course, we have the WhatsApp group. You can always come back to ask questions. Oh, I don't understand this. How do we do this? Okay. So the task must be the little steps you take towards achieving that main goal, which is the milestone. Okay, I don't know if there's any other thing that any other one I should use. Okay, for example, distribute 100 nose masks to elderly pedestrians. That was the last one we did. It distributes 100 nose masks. You can just see there are two. We're not going to make them, so we just procured and distributed. That was just it. Because what we did was we just called somebody that got us the nose mask, the boxes, we procured them, and then when we were at the wash station, when we see elderly people walking by, we just give them. So those are just two major tasks we did. We didn't do any other thing, and then we achieved that milestone. So the task must not always be big, but you just think it through, have a clear vision. Okay, these are the things I need to be doing. If I needed to call somebody, I would have added, maybe schedule a call and the rest of them. But you can just take these little steps as, your pathway towards achieving them. And of course, there are many other milestones. You may have 2 or 3 or 4 milestones before you are able to complete your projects. It doesn't mean it's just going to be one milestone. So the milestones are just the major achievements along the path to executing your projects. Thank you.
Kingsley, thank you for such an amazing job, and it's really helpful to have your project too as an example. And you made a good point. If you go to the grant page, you can see who has won each grant, And I do highly suggest going to their project pages and seeing what they did. And the other thing I will say too is, you don't have to have everything completed and cleared out before a grant closes in order to be up for receiving the grant. The main point is just to show that you are actually doing something. And that, again, allows us to have some accountability for what it is that you're doing, so that we can see, you know, you're serious about this and you're working on it. And also too, as you know, we've talked with a lot of grant providers outside of our organization before building the grant application process here. And one of the things that every single grant provider shared all over the world in many degrees is that what they really struggle with is when giving someone money, they have no idea what they're going to do with the money after, or if they're actually using it for something. So we've really created something unique here in allowing you to literally show what it is that you're doing in small ways, so that there's some level of relationship and trust between the person who's giving the grant and the person who would be receiving the grant. But Kingsley, you made a great point. It doesn't have to be the biggest, most creative milestones or tasks. It can be as simple as, you know, calling, making a phone call. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out, Kingsley. So I hope that, I mean, that does a very
Okay.
general overview of tasks and milestones. There's a lot. Did you want to say something, Kingsley?
Yeah, I was just looking. We've spent about 50 minutes, but there's something I would love for you to do before we get to the concluding part. Could you just walk us through, while you're sharing your screen? Could you just walk us through creating a milestone, and then just how to create a task underneath it, and then schedule the dates so everybody can see? Because I see some persons are still popping up that question. So let's just
Sure.
treat it now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I am using the Share Yourself admin account. And so the project that's on here is I think just sort of a pretend project that we made up, pending review. Okay, wait, I'm gonna switch to, let's see. Give me one moment. I'm just gonna switch projects really quick. Oh, let's see. This is a really old project of mine, but we'll visit it for the sake. Okay. All right, so I am logged in. I'm seeing the activity feed. I have a few different projects, so I just switched to this one called Green Mountain Chaga. I'm going to click on tasks. 400, yeah, I created this a while ago, so that's why it's so overdue. But let's see, right now, so Green Mountain Chaga, it's just it's a herbalism company, small company that I started for health benefits for people. And so I have actually run through all of my projects, or products, so I need to make more. So that would be in products. So but right now I don't have my product with me. So actually, while I'm away, a new milestone I would create is management while traveling. Or no, I'm sorry. Bear with me for a second. It's been a little while. Transfer business, oops, to partner. So I'm actually transferring this business to a different partner, which is my sister, because I am no longer in the same country that I started this business. So I can't really manage it anymore. So I'm going to transfer it to her. And the due date that I would like to ideally get it set up, I think by the end of July. So July 31st is my goal. So I create the milestone. Okay. Now there are a few things that I need to do to get that set up, but the first one is to have my sister start creating new products and teach her how to use the website in which I sell it. So I think that would be the most important one right now, an easy one. Teach Maddie how to use Etsy. Etsy is where I sell it. So I'm going to set up a Zoom call with Maddie and show her Etsy. I'm also, there's a few things under here. So I'm also going to give Maddie the password and have her customize it to her location. Okay, so those are all the things she needs to know how to use Etsy, but I'm gonna do this in a Zoom call. So this priority is pretty high. She can't do anything until she knows how to use Etsy. So while it doesn't need to happen today, I definitely need to do it within the next week or two. So I'm gonna say this is a high priority. Meaning I would love to have it done, I would say by the end of next week. So let's see, in a week from now. So June 19th is my goal. I'm going to assign it to myself. And that reminds me, I don't see her on here. I need to add her to my project. So as you're going, if you see that, you know, you need a team member on here to assign things to them, or to share documents with them, or information, it would be really smart to make a note or a task to add them to your project. So I would go to my team settings and I would add Maddie, and she's on here actually, so I can show you how to do that. The category for this is business related things. If I wanted to share a photo, I could do that if it would be helpful. But I'm going to create this task. And then because this is a Zoom call, one thing that I would do is once I set up the Zoom meeting, I would post the link right in here. And then I would tag Maddie so she knows that on June 19th, we have a Zoom call at whatever time. But let's see, settings, invite a team member. Okay, so I'm pretty sure Maddie is already on the platform. I'm gonna check to see if she is. Yep, Maddie. So I'm gonna add her to the project. She'll get a request for it. Team verification email sent. So she's gonna get a notification to join, and then I can add a role. If she wasn't here, I would put in her email and send a message, and then we would go through this process. So that's how I would create a task for a milestone. I need to transfer this to her, so I'm glad now that I'm getting going. So this is one the next part would be to teach her how to create the products. And that even teach her how to make the products could even be a milestone in and of itself. And each task could be teach her how to make the tea, teach her how to make the tincture, teach her how to create the labels. So however big or small you want a milestone, it's up to you, but that's just kind of an example of how you create it. And each of these can be edited. Once I am done this, then I would close the task. If I wanted to send her a message, you know, I would just at her on here. You can make edits. If you wanted to make it a low priority, you could, or change the due date, you could do that as well. Kingsley, do you think that was a sufficient example?
Okay, yeah, Lauren, thank you so much. But I just a quick one in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you let's just do something. I want this to be a bit participatory. So can you just unmute everybody? Just unmute everybody. What? And then everyone, please shut down your videos. Please close your video. Put off your videos, please. And so this is what we're going to do, Lauren. Please.
Yeah.
You're going to share your screen again, create a new project, and that project, let's make the milestone, let's make the milestone to be host webinar.
Nice.
And then I want everybody to give us a task for the host of webinar. So let's just do that fast in the next 5 minutes, please.
Perfect, great idea. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna ask a question first just to see, I'm sure that there is a way for me to do this as well. Are people able to unmute themselves or no?
No.
I'm just seeing if I have to do it individually.
No,
okay.
They can't. You have to unmute everybody.
All right. Well, thankfully, there's not too many people on here, so I'm just unmuting them all.
Okay, let's just keep it quiet, please, and then let's just run this together.
You know, more story, no first story of my life. Yeah.
So multiple stories. Oh, I need to share my screen again. 1 second.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know, low down.
You can see my screen?
Yes, I can. I can see the screen. So let's create a new milestone.
Okay. So the new milestone is host
webinar.
Perfect. Teach how to use ShareYourself for grants.
Exactly.
Today is today. All right.
Okay, so that's now. Can someone tell us? Can someone just tell us? Okay, Lauren.
Yep.
Lauren, can you mute? Can you just mute everybody? Can you mute everybody, please? It's like. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lisbeth, for that suggestion. It looks like some persons are actually on the road. Okay, now we have created a milestone, which is to host a webinar. Okay, so what are the tasks? Can someone just put that on the chat section? What's the first task that will come to your mind if you want to create a webinar like this one? What do you think is the first thing you need to do? Let someone just post that on the chat section, please. So yeah, on the chat section, please. Host webinar task. Identify the platform to use to host the webinar. Perfect. So you need to identify the platform. Okay, it's going to be a Zoom. Okay, identify platform. Okay, fine. So Lauren, the description will just be Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google, what was it called? Google Meets. There are lots of them. So it could be anyone. Yeah, it could be anyone.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And
oh yeah. Okay. Critical.
You'll be speaking to on the webinar. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So we may not do all this, but you all are right. So that means before you start a webinar, you either know your audience. So if you know your audience, that's going to affect the choice of platform that you're going to use. And of course, it depends on also your budget and the rest of them. So actually, I like that. I like that some of you already have a picture of what we're talking about. So it takes that step. But if you want to host a Zoom webinar and what I'm seeing on your task is something like send invitation. I mean, I'm already lost. How do you just send invitation? What did you do before you get to send out the links to people? Okay, so you must identify your audience. You must identify the platform you want to use to reach out to the people who you will be your participant. And then after you do that, after you identify the platform, you have to now put out information, because when you design a flyer, you're going to tell us if it's going to be a Zoom meeting or if it's going to be a Microsoft Team meeting. And then after that, you're going to put out a Google Doc or anything for people to register or sign the webinar day. Okay, so these are just the little steps that you take to achieving the webinar. Meanwhile, the webinar may not be the goal of the project. It's just one of the milestones, which is one of the goals that the project has achieved. The project might just be to teach people how to leverage the platform like we're doing to get grants. Okay, so after this webinar now, what's the next thing that you think we'll be doing? What other milestone do you think we'll be doing? It could be anything about maybe ensuring that we have say 20 people that has that can actually arrange a good project on ShareYourself. Remember, we're trying to give some persons grants. And then for us to achieve our goal, we need to maybe, the last milestone might be something like ensure that at least 2 or 3 persons gets the grants. You see, we have already achieved. So we're coming from a place of telling grantees what to do to achieve the grants. We've taken them through a webinar. We've also ensured that their projects are up and running on the platform. They're able to manage their tasks. They're able to build a team and run with a team. And then they now can assess the grants because they've successfully done what needs to be done, and then they've won the grants. So these are just the chain of events. So that could just be like 3 milestones with a lot of tasks underneath each of the milestones. So I think that's quite understood. So Lauren, I don't know if there's any other thing. If not, maybe we should just have Elizabeth Williams unmuted, so she just in the next 3 minutes give us what she did differently, how she was able to leverage the platform to get a grant.
Yeah, perfectly. And thanks for being so thorough about the tasks and milestones. Really great job. All right, Elizabeth, I'm gonna request that you unmute if you're free. Hop on.
Okay, I've unmuted myself.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Okay. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Kingsley.
Hi.
Hi.
So please just in the next 3 minutes, just tell us when you came on ShareYourself. I know you did not, nobody put you through all these things which we're doing now, but you were able to, manage your tasks and projects. And at the end of the day, you're one of the people that won the COVID-19 Flatten the Curve grant. So what did you really do, and what was the motivation? How were you able to manage your team and some of these other things that we're talking about?
Okay. So thanks so much for giving me this opportunity to share my own experience with using the Share Yourself platform. And thank you so much, Lauren, for reaching out to me and letting me know that such an amazing platform actually existed, which is actually one of its kind. I don't think I've seen any other platform like this. So yeah, as Kingsley said, I didn't actually have anybody who puts me through. But then I think the good thing about the Share Yourself platform is it's quite self-explanatory. It literally has all the tools and the resources that you need to be able to easily navigate the site. And maybe partially because I have a bit of project management skills and experience, so it wasn't difficult at all. So yeah, so one of the things that really worked for me was just sticking to the rules and regulations of using the platform. Okay, so things like when you create a project, you have to ensure you have a picture, as Lauren spoke about, having a very clear picture that depicts what your project is about, having a picture as well for your own personal account that speaks about what you do, ensuring that you have all the information about yourself on the site, your name, a brief bio about yourself, what you do. If you even have links to some of the things you've done outside of the Share Yourself platform, you could have that on your site. Just a way of, kind of validating your authenticity and showing that you are actually committed or passionate about the particular thing you want to do. And then secondly, when it comes to the project, having to sit down and think about what exactly it is you want to do, and it starts from identifying your why. So for me, I don't know, if you go through my project on the platform, you'd see that I love to use storytelling a lot when I'm trying to pitch a project idea. And that was what I did, which I think kind of contributed to me standing out. And it was the fact that I was able to use a life story or experience of a potential beneficiary of my project from the community I wanted to implement that project as the justification for the project I wanted to do. So the part where you have your project idea, talking about the why, I was able to use that personal story to talk about why I wanted to do that project. And then, of course, at the same time, I was able to show the things that I was going to be needing to be able to make it happen. And I was also able to link my project to the current COVID-19 response, why it was needed and why it was relevant at this time. So I was able to create that linkage. And at the same time, I was also able to link it to the SDGs. What SDGs were this, was my project going to be attending to, or was it going to be achieving? And another thing was, as Lauren said, was in the area of budget. So kind of like having a little bit of idea of what you want to use the money for, what some of the items you will be getting. So I did that as well. I talked about some of the items I was going to be getting, the cost implication for those items I was going to be getting. And one interesting thing I did that I feel also works is when doing your budget, don't just limit it to things that you need the grant for. So there are some things that you could actually get, like from partnerships, from collaborations, from your networks. Also include it in the, when talking about your project. So I spoke about the fact that for like the community who wanted to do our intervention, or where we wanted to do our project, we already had some commitments from the community. Like, for example, we had public address systems, which we didn't have to pay for. We're giving a venue for the point of distribution, which we didn't have to pay to use. So highlighting some of those things that we were already able to get from partnerships and collaborations and wouldn't necessarily need money for. I feel that's also another way to really show that you are really passionate about what you're doing and that you're already going out of your way to get something done. So it might not even be maybe monetary. It could be maybe you already have a social media page where you're maybe talking about the project you want to do. You may be already soliciting for funds online. Whatever it is you're doing, even outside of the Share Yourself platform, is something that you can talk about so that they also know that you're also making efforts in your own little way. And then I think here the miles and the tax. Very, very, very good. So for the miles and the tasks, I think Kingsley and Lauren have done an amazing job, breaking it down. So it's all about you just looking at, the way I look at it is this. I look at it as I have a very big goal I want to achieve, and that goal is I want to reach 300 girls and young women in rural communities in Lagos, Nigeria, which relieve items, specifically food items and wash items, which are sanitary pads, hand sanitizers, and face masks. That's like my overall goal. I mean, it's really big, But then I have like smaller goals, which Lauren spoke about, which are like your specific objectives as to why you want to achieve that big goal, right? And then for each of those objectives, you have like little tasks that you need to do. So I'll use myself as an example. One of the sub goals I had for my goal was to have a meeting with my team. So I already had my team, and I brought my team members on the Share Yourself platform. They were all registered on the Share Yourself platform, and we're using the tool as a platform for our project. So I had to, first of all, in fact, have a meeting with them to discuss the project and what we wanted to do, delegate tasks and assignments and things like that. So that was like a goal. So what did I need to do? One, I needed to decide what platform we're going to use to do that meeting, because we were on lockdown as at then. We couldn't meet physically, so we had to have a virtual meeting. I had to decide what platform I was going to use for that virtual meeting. Was it going to be WhatsApp? Was it going to be Zoom? We ended up using WhatsApp. I had to call the community where we're going to go to do our, do the project, to get their buy-in and their support. And what did I do? I had a WhatsApp, conversation with the community chairman. And all of these things, at every point in time, I was doing updates. So whenever I have these things done, I go on the platform and update and say, oh, I have held a virtual meeting. It is possible for you to even have like evidence. Lauren spoke about evidence. People want to actually see what you're doing, and they want to be able to trust that the money they're giving to you, be able to use it to achieve that goal or that project that you have in mind. So for me, what I do is, even the screenshots of the chats I have with the community leaders, I screenshot it, I share it as an update, so you can even see that, oh, I actually had this conversation, and these were the things that came out of it. So share pictures. When I went to the market to get the things we're going to distribute, I took pictures of us in the market, I took pictures of the items that we bought. All of those things really helps, because people can see, it's like you're taking them through a story of your project, like they're going through the project with you. So they are seeing everything you're doing at every point in time. And that's what the miles and the tasks are for. They are there for you to continue to constantly update, the Share Yourself platform, and anybody who is interested in your project, either to partner with you, collaborate with you, volunteer with you, or even support you more, financially. So I think these are some of the things that for me, I would say they really helped. And luckily, I was able to get a grant, which has been very useful. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Yeah, you mentioned something that's very key, and that's the fact that you need to push yourself first before even you get the grant fund or before you win. When I got my grant, when I won my grant in January this year, I started the project immediately. I started the project. I started visiting the schools, and even when I won the grant, I also continued. I did not stop. It took me about a month plus to even get the funds, but I didn't stop. I kept, going. So when I got the fund, I was able to even do more. So I think we should, as much as possible, try to push yourself. When we see the motivation, because after you fulfill all the requirements, we still look out for the motivation. We still look out for that thing that drives you, which is actually the why. So it's very important for us. And then quickly, we'll just talk to Monday. If Monday is there, please let's unmute Monday. Monday Olu. Monday is going to tell us how he's able to coordinate his team, because Monday's team is doing an amazing job. So Monday, if you're there, just tell us how you're able to carry your team, how you were able to sell this vision to your team, to key into your project, and get you guys where you are now in doing what you're doing. Monday.
Yeah. Good day, everyone.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. It's noisy there. Can you move up? Can you move to?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. Seriously, I'm grateful for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Winning grants with Share Yourself is is one of my most greatest moments on earth, seriously, because since I'm supporting humanity, I've never gotten a grant. I cannot hide these feelings to each and every one of you. It's my first grant. So, and I just have to thank Mr. Kingsley for this opportunity, because he's the one that shared the grant opportunity on Twitter. I was able to stitch my eyes on, then I applied. So at any time, at any time, if I had any challenges, I'll just tweet him, I'll just message him on Twitter on my challenges. Then he will just attend to all my problems, and that was the first motivation of me achieving the greatest goal of winning this grant. So I just have to say thank you once more.
Welcome, man.
So,
Welcome.
and then at first we had a project on ground, so as to distribute food items to people in rural communities in Yola Adamawa State. So what makes me is the passion I have for the project, the passion I have to feed people in my community, because seriously has caused a lot of problems. People lost their livelihood, and then as government imposed lockdown, so things are hard on people. I just decided to say, okay, I gathered 2 to 3 of my colleagues. I said, okay, since we have some little funds in our hands, why can't we gather some food items and call other donors around, so as to help people, so as to distribute these food items to people. And then they said it's a good idea. Seriously, they have even their family members that are in need. Then I said, okay, so then we should go ahead, seriously. From there, one person will call another, the other person will call another. This is how seriously we build our team. We build our team from people that have passion in what we are doing. And so seriously, from there, since we won the grant, then it increases our our goals and target. We targeted to feed over 5,000 people with this grant.
Wow. Wow.
And then, yes, continuously, I don't know, because we have enough food stuff now in the store. I don't know whether we can stop sharing, seriously. And people need food more and more and more and more and more. I don't think the project will end with Share Yourself, serious.
Thank you so much, Monday. Thank you. Like you heard what he said there. It's very important. It's very important that you have like-minded people in your team, people that share the same passion, people that are committed, because at some point it's going to affect you. When I started the hand wash project, in fact, there are some days I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like going there to set up. But, you just get a phone call from my volunteer, Justina. She's been very amazing. You just get a call. Hey, what's up? We're coming out today. Maybe that morning it rained so hard that I'm just in my bed. I don't want to get up. And then, you get fired up again. So it's very important that when you're trying to achieve a particular goal in your project, try to have people that are as passionate and committed as you, because this is not something that it's a soft skill actually that's going to help you even outside Share Yourself, because it's very important. It's a life principle. If you roll with a pack of wolves, you become one. So please, as much as possible, let's ensure that when you're building a team, do it consciously. Do your team building consciously. It's very, very important. I see some persons asking me about WhatsApp. I dropped my number there. I also post it on the website again. You can always, I'll drop the link on the website. So when you visit, just click and it takes you to WhatsApp. I will spend about an hour, 30 minutes, and it's beyond what we scheduled. I know Lauren has a lot to do, so please, on a final note, I'll just give Lauren the floor to just talk to us. I'll still leave my number again. If there's any question, if there's any way I can guide you, I'm always willing to tell you how to, maneuver this, any hurdle you might come across. So Lauren, please, just as a vote of thanks, or as a departure note, just say something that we'll take home. Thank you.
Thank you, Kingsley, and thank you, Munde and Elizabeth as well. You guys sharing your experiences really helped make something as dry as explaining how to use project management tools to something a little more heart-centered and helpful. And yeah, I just in wrapping up, I wanted to say a couple of things logistic-wise and moving forward. We don't plan on stopping with grants at all or anytime soon. One of my big roles is actually spending each day trying to find more grant providers to partner with. And the more work that people like you are doing on your projects, on Share Yourself, the more more material I have to go to these potential partners and show all the amazing work that is happening out there, and give them a reason to activate their funds to make impact initiatives the most successful. So the work that you're doing, not just to receive an open grant, but for the sake of helping your communities and humanity, is really changing the way that people are being impactful. So thank you, and just keep going. And Kingsley, myself, the whole Share Yourself team, we're all here to answer questions. And on that note, I know that we had a lot of questions asked from people as they signed up for the webinar, and a lot of them weren't able to join, and I see questions in the chat. So what I'm thinking is, I'm thinking that I might go through all the questions and then maybe set up another recording, just answering some of the questions that maybe weren't able to be answered today, so that's available to you. And Kingsley, I'm thinking that, it might be of use to host another one of these or more in the future as well, just because there's a lot. I mean, like tasks and milestones is one focus, but there's a lot more, and I think this is a great way to connect and engage as well. So please, any questions, they can be asked outside of and off of this specific webinar. We want to be as helpful as possible. So all questions will be answered to the best of our ability after we close here as well.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being a part. I see some persons have, well, maybe the next one, I'll try to ensure that we give internet data in the form of grants, because Lauren, one of the issues that makes people not to participate in webinar in this part is sometimes some people are interested, but the data to stream, and all that. So maybe the next time I'll make arrangements for that, just to ensure that we encourage people to hop in. So thank you, guys. I'm really, really grateful for your participation. Thank you, Elizabeth and Monday. Thank you, everybody. Mike, Kabir. A matter of fact, Kabir is the guy that posted the Share Yourself grants in December last year, which I saw, and then I applied, and then I got it. So he's my guy. So thank you, Kabir. Miracle, thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Adetola. Thank you, Napoleon. Thank you, Capisco. Thank you, For a Day. For a Day is all the way from Liberia. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, Felix. Thank you, everybody. So we're grateful. So please, whatever you've learned, take it to your team. Try to fire them up, and then let's continue the conversation on WhatsApp. So on that note, let's call it today. Thank you, guys. We're grateful.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.